as Daniel has introduced himself, my name is Dominic Scar. I work for a company called 802 Global. We have, for the last 2 years, pretty much been working with Cybermoor as their wireless technology partner. The basis of my talk today is an introduction to wireless technologies, capabilities, indicative costings. Now, because of the time constraints and the generalisation of today's discussions, it's not an all-encompassing review, it's very generic, so there may be questions you have that we can talk about later on, or it may just be sort of a brief overview. The first slide I've got is basically an introduction to the technologies and applications that are available to yourselves. There are a mixture of vendors' equipments, and not only do they differ in capabilities but also in costings as well. Traditionally, a lot of rural broadband networks have used 2.4 GHz for the wireless transmission. As Daniel has already intimated, they began with Cisco AeroNet back in 9 years ago. What we have found now is, due to the prevalence of home wireless routers, 2.4 is now very prevalent to interference. So if you are looking at a wireless solution, it's probably more likely to be around 5 GHz range rather than 2.4. As with everything in life, there's cheaper versions of the technologies and the more expensive versions. This first slide gives you sort of an introduction to the range of technologies. You've got the entry-level point-to-point. It says on the slide there, range 15 kilometres, max megabits is 24 megabits per second. Typically this is used for short distance point-to-point connections. They do have point-to-multipoint solutions as well, but again, you do get what you pay for. The link distances quoted are for reference purposes only. You may find some of the links you buy or look at don't perform as well as you expected. There's a number of reasons behind this. Link availability can be affected by such things as natural lie of the land, building clutter, trees, and everything impinge on the signal. The 5 GHz equipment, as opposed to 2.4, will work non and near line of sight. Obviously, ideally everyone would like a network that they can deploy where everybody can see everybody, and the deployment issues aren't a consideration. It's also worth bearing in mind the throughputs listed down in the megabits slide are the maximum throughput. They are dependent on distance. It's worth bearing in mind that not every connection is going to be able to achieve the maximum throughput to reduce distances. The two at the bottom, the high-end point-to-point and the licensed microwave, both of those technologies do incur an annual license fee. So again, if you are looking at something, it's traditionally used for your backbone networks, so rather than your last mile access, these will be the technology used to bring the signal into the various areas you're looking to connect. So when you're making your business plan, bear in mind that as well as the initial capex on these technologies, there will be an opex moving forward. Next slide, please. Vendor buy costings. Now obviously these vendors are traditionally only the vendors that we as a company enter to distribute. There are a lot more vendors out there, so don't take this as a comprehensive solution. Again, just to reiterate what we've already talked about, range, throughput and cost per point-to-point link. What I've done here on the two columns there is work on generalisation. Again, I can give you individual costs for base stations and subscribers, and you can multiply them as and how you see fit to get your costings, but just as a comparative exercise, we'll use the generalisation there. Again, we've already spoke about it, as in with everything in life, you do get what you pay for. I suppose the entry-level equipment there would be the ubiquity. From a cost perspective, it's very attractive to rural broadband communities, both the base stations and, more importantly, the client premises equipment are, I think it's fair to say, on the cheaper side. But they do have a limit. A point-to-point link that you buy for a connection that's 200 metres may not be the same technology used for your main backbone links to go 20 and 30 kilometres. So understanding the different vendors out there and understanding their capabilities and not trying to do too much of what they're capable of is quite important. As a company, I'd like to think we've provided Cybermoor with quite a lot of assistance in this, and again, moving forward, it's something that you should interface with a wireless technologies company that will be able to give you the technology information you need. Next one. So, proposed 5 gig solution, what does it look like? What's it made up of? Ideally, your network, we'll see a few slides of how the Cybermoor network has developed in a little while, but you will notice that the network will be made of a number of base stations in the areas. These are usually where you've got a high number of users or potential users that need to be connected, and Murphy's Law dictates that they won't just be in one direction, so one antenna will be able to connect them all. They'll be 360 degrees from where you need to go. So the first thing is planning. The base stations, ideally, first thing you need to do is how am I going to get my internet point of presence onto the network? How am I going to distribute it? The base stations will be the first step in your access layer. They will be the connections that provide the client premises equipment with connections. We already mentioned throughputs can vary depending on vendor's equipment, but maximum, depending on the vendor, maximum throughput per sector is around 240 megabits to be shared amongst the users. Again, depending on distances where individuals' users are from the base station, it will dictate what kind of speeds it will connect at. We've also mentioned it before as well. In an ideal world, that is the maximum throughput you get, clear line of sight. You will find issues with building clutter, interference, long line of sight. So if you do have the time to do live surveys, it takes the guesswork of what the equipment is going to be able to do. Also, as the network grows, it's vitally important you keep a detailed network diagram. What frequencies are the units run on, what data speed are they connecting at, how many users they have of it. It's not unusual and it's not unheard of for network operators to actually have interference from their own equipment, so as well as other people's equipment out there in the free space. Again, if you've got comprehensive network diagrams, it reduces the challenge of you interfering with yourself. If you've got a concern of the visual impact, Dan's already mentioned it, rural areas do tend to be some kind of conservation issues every now and again. Most of those units that we've talked about for the base station and the access layer CPs can be painted to blend in with the background. So as long as they're using non-lead paint, then it is an element of camouflage that you can look at. One way that Cybermoor and ourselves have reduced costs or improved the service in which Cybermoor is delivering is to increase the capacity on the backbone. Traditionally, rural communities like yourselves would probably be speaking with the likes of BT, Virgin, to find a way of getting a point of presence from the nearest internet pop into your community. What Cybermoor did was, obviously went around for costings from various MNOs, network operators, to get the fibre connections into the network, and then looked at a way of reducing these costs. And what we did come up with was a succession of backbone links using licensed microwave that actually brought the signal from the nearest internet pop to Alston here at, I'd say, reduced cost of what a fibre dig would do. Obviously this is dependent on having the infrastructure to install these equipment on. If you know network operators that have masts in your area, you have got an ability to negotiate site share agreements and to install equipment on their towers, but these can be expensive and it's a lengthy process. What Cybermoor did was approached sympathetic landowners and discussed the opportunity of installing a mast on their land. Again, I think it was mentioned that the selling point was they would get free internet access. Cybermoor network, I hope you can see all this. I did try and get one map onto one slide, but I experienced a few technical difficulties yesterday, so I could only fit them on one. At the bottom there, put a fire station. Just across the road, you've got the Durham Council site, which is where the nearest internet point of presence was. Luckily for ourselves, there was already ducting existing from the product point of presence to the fire station. So that was, once we knew where the nearest internet point of presence was, that was our starting point. Our next guess was, okay then, well, if that's where the fire station is, and this is where we need to get in to bring our network connection in Torston, how are we going to do this? We looked at a number of alternative ways of doing this. Is there existing tower work on the moor that we can use? Yes, there was, but again, as we experienced, the site share arrangements are lengthy and it's quite a costly exercise. What we did come up with in the end, and I say we, using the royal word, it was me and the guys at Cybermoor, there was a sympathetic landowner, as we've previously mentioned, up in Kersley, that agreed to a mast being erected on the fringe of his lands that we knew had line of sight down to the fire station, and as long as we could increase the height of the tower at Mount Hooley, we'd be able to provide us a line of sight down to Hooley. This process went on, everything was arranged, there was a number of planning permission hurdles that Kevin managed to get over, and at the end of it what we were left with is we've got, I'm going to get this the wrong way around, is that the 20? I think that's a 20-kilometre link from Kersley to Prudhoe, and then from Kersley Farm down to Mount Hooley it's about a 40-kilometre link. Now obviously this isn't using 5 GHz equipment, this is using licensed microwave. That link is at 7 GHz and that link is at, that link is at 13 GHz and that's at 7 GHz. There is operational expenditures for these licenses as well as the kit. And I think, Jenny, the cost for the 13 GHz link is around £1,100 a year, and the cost for the 7 GHz is around £1,400 a year. Costs aren't generic, they're based on frequencies, so distances you want to achieve, dish sizes, that kind of thing. So we can give you ballpark figures for a 20-kilometre link, but we'll be able to give you a lot more developed figures if we knew exact distances, throughputs, that kind of thing. The capacity on that link is currently running at 100 megabits. However, due to the link availability and the distances, that can be increased up to 500 megabits as and when the needs arise. Yeah. We can move on to as well. Finally, this is just basically a slide meant for reference purposes. This is a small section of the Cybermoor network, and it gives you a visual representation of how it fits together. At the top there, that is Mount Hooley, which we've already discussed is where the licensed microwave connects. From there, you've got two or three high-capacity point-to-point links, bringing them into areas of dense local user. And then from those areas, you've got a number of base stations or access points that distribute those to the clients using point-to-multipoint scenarios. Again, I've touched on it once, I'll touch on it again. When discussing any wireless network, one of the biggest things you need to consider is proper planning, proper site surveys, frequency reuse. There isn't an infinite number of frequencies you can use, so careful planning will restrict the element of interference that you'll be using from your site. I think, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. So I think if we move on to any questions the room might have, and we can answer that. I think the gentleman over there was first.
One point you made was 240 megabits per second of availability.
Yes.
Now, to be shared by who?
However many clients you want to use off that sector.
100 clients, that's going to be 2.5 megabits per
client. That's right, yeah. But that's on a one-to-one potential rate. If you look at the figures that BT give, they usually work on a potential rate of 71. I think you'll also find, and maybe Jenny or Kevin, guys at Cybermoor, would be able to back me up on this, it's very rare that you have every user operating at the same time at the maximum capacity, and that's only off a single sector.
So it's supposed to be first come, first served?
It is, yeah, best effort, but there is an element of intelligence you can bring to this. They've got a structured service provision at Cybermoor, so some people buy 512 kilobits, some people buy 2 megabits. That 240 meg isn't just available for everybody, you can limit it. So if you know somebody's only paid for the bronze service, you can limit their service to 512 kilobits and they won't get anything more. Again, it's worth bearing in mind that is only one sector. There's nothing preventing you from putting 2 or 3 sectors around one base to double up the capacity, but I'd be surprised if it was just for broadband provision. if that 240 meg wouldn't be enough for 10 or 12 clients.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel, do you want to?
Yeah, okay. Ronnie?
Daniel, Dominic, you both sort of touched on it. You both mentioned planning.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any planning issues? I mean, obviously you're dealing with more than one planning authorities.
If I can, I'll pass this on to Kevin because he actually deals with the planning issues that they experience.
We have found that, again, by working on the social enterprise approach with planning authorities, they are more amenable to trying to work with us than if we were a pure commercial organisation such as a mobile phone company or whatever. When we put the mast up at Kersley, the planners are able to give permission for, I think it's up to 15 metre tall mast under delegated authority. We had to get a separate application in for the mast on top of Mount Hooley because it's 30 metres tall. But again, we're fortunate. Cybermoor's been working with Cumbria County Council for quite a long period of time, so therefore we're dealing with people who understand our organisation and are willing to help because they know we've been working for a while. As I mentioned earlier, over in Weirdown, where they don't know us from a hole in the wall, we are being faced with a lot more problems because people are saying, don't know who you are, never heard of you, do we trust you, and all the rest of it. So we're having to build the bridges that's taken a lot longer than we would do if we were in Cumbria or up in Northumberland, where we've worked. So we've not really had anywhere, but the way to do it is to go forward, tell them what you want to do, and ask for their help, and it generally works out okay.
And what, in a conservation area like Awesome, what about issues, etc., and boxes on buildings? Has this been an issue, quite apart from the local interest?
It hasn't been an issue, except with the individual building owners who might perceive that they don't want something there. As Dominic mentioned, the finishes on the current equipment is readily available to be painted with suitable paints, so that you could even sort of blend it in so it doesn't, show above the brickwork, etc. So that sort of situation.
Okay, more questions? Libby?
You mentioned your licensing on your multi-point microwave and
Yeah.
cost involved in that. Who are you currently backhauling off? And is it a BT-based package or is it at least fibre package that you're backhauling off? Who are you buying backhaul off and what's the cost involved?
Yeah, it comes from Northumberland County Council. They have a network which comes out in Prudhoe, and the actual internet connectivity comes from a company in Gateshead called ITPS. So, they provide ITPS provide the internet connectivity, and that comes to us in Prudhoe via the County Council's network. ITPS have done us a very good deal, and they've asked us not to tell anyone else how much we're paying, which is fair enough because they have a lot of clients. And as we're being filmed today, the last thing I want them is.
And is that an independent provider, such as Geo would be over our side of the country? Is that an independent? It's not based on any packet data that you would have to buy. It's just independent, at least.
Yeah, they basically sell us that. Okay. Any more questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering how much fixed equipment there is in this network, transmitters, multiplexers, things like that, and how much maintenance work is involved in that.
From a maintenance perspective, the fixed wireless access, the licensed backbone, there's 4 units at 3 locations. Once those are installed, they're pretty much self-running. They require very little maintenance. We'll then to go up and check that where the internal equipment is being housed, isn't getting too hot, isn't getting too cold. For actual
remote diagnostics.
It does, and obviously then you can supplement that with your network management software that's can take into account temperatures, some use rudimentaries of ping, just to make sure that all the network equipment is working and is responding. With regards to the access layer equipment, do you guys have a list of figures of days we call out the equipment, or?
We don't, but it's a bit like the rest of the wireless problems. There isn't really any planned maintenance. We find that for reasons we've yet to fathom, some of the access points fail. and we replace the equipment, put another one in, and that fails again. So there is obviously some interference around. We work with these guys and the equipment suppliers to try and bottom that out. We don't know. Other access points have been up there for 9 years and have never given us any problems.
So how much downtime have you had then?
You mean
Due to those kind of breakdowns?
due to those kind of breakdowns, I would
From the
say
user's point of view,
we're losing a few days a
What do
year.
you tell the users in terms of the availability?
Best efforts.
That's it.
That's it. It sounds very sort of blasé to say that. There is a distinction, obviously, if there are people who have been past Alston who can get BT and we have a period of horrible problems, we may lose a few users, they'll go to BT. For people who don't have any option, we do the best we can. We lose a few days a year, and it tends to come in. One stage we lost a whole bunch of equipment because we had a lightning strike. A few storms here and it hit a few bits of the access points and blocked a load of them out. So we were down for a day or two. We lost more time through our backhaul connection, which we bought from Clio, Cumbria Lancashire Education Online, than we did to anything else really. Because they're based down in Lancashire, it seemed equipment would go down and they'd say, oh, it's Thursday or Friday, we'll try and get you by Monday. And that really isn't what we need to do. So that's one of the reasons why we've had to put our own backhaul in, where we've got our own maintenance people and our own support organisations. So fingers crossed.
Okay.
Can I just touch on one little note there? As Kevin mentioned, as with anything, you will get some technical failures on the equipment. Very rarely is it dead on arrival, but sometimes you can just fail just because it's technical parameters. You can do a little sort of preventative maintenance to avoid the downtime that this might cause you. So having spares in your network management centre, keeping the configurations of all your units on a server held locally. So if you do have an issue with an access point or one of the client premises equipment, if you can flash the config onto those units pretty quickly and get it out and change it, then the only downtime you have is the physical time it takes to get there and remove the equipment.
Right, we've got time for one more question, and then you okay for the presentation? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of points there. Is the future with the wireless, is it going to have enough bandwidth for the networkness, or are you going to have to go down the fibre optic route eventually?
I guess it depends on your vision for your network. What are you trying to achieve? It's been touched on before that a lot of rural communities don't have any service. So if it was just giving people a broadband service, then wireless, at its current conception, will give them that. As I say, from an access layer, typically from a single sector, you're looking at max 240 meg to be shared around. If you want dedicated one-to-one contention to give next-gen access of 25 meg, and you've got a community of 100, then you either need to be very strategic with your wireless deployment, or you need to look at fibre. I think we've got a colleague here from Emtel that will talk about the fibre on there, but there's no single solution, or at least there shouldn't be, to a broadband network. All solutions should be sort of looked at, and you'll probably find that at the end of it, the network will be a mixture of technology. So there'll be some wireless, there'll be some fibre to the cabinet, there'll even be some fibre to the home, should there be the call for it.